So, abdominoplasty, a well-established surgical option for those seeking a more toned abdomen. In other words, it's a tummy tuck. But my guest today is going to talk about his experience with a tummy tuck and what actually happened before and after. So I really appreciate it. But first, this is Tighten Up with JLJ. Hi, welcome our new rebranded show. Came out of Indiana Botox Bay, which still those episodes are up, and you guys are listening. You guys are also listening to that portion of the show, so thank you. Really appreciate it. I'm here in Los Angeles, and I decided to get with my friend. Like, I'm in LA. A lot of my friends have had procedures done. So I was like, oh. So, okay, so this person, he has the award-winning show, Draped in Gold. He has the long-running show, New Amsterdam. He has a wonderful, I guess it's a Substack, right? It's Just a Sandwich.
Yeah,
I read that one all the time. I love it. It's a lot of fun. He's part of the Black Baseball Mixtape family. They do stuff about black baseball. Uh,
yeah.
he's on many of my shows here on JLJ Media. He's also a musical comedian of some sorts. He has some comedy songs out there. He's a best-selling author. Help me welcome my friend, colleague, peer, Flobo Boyce.
You said friend and colleague. I thought there'd be somebody else behind me. But thank you so much for having me on the show, man. It means the world. I love the intro. It was really nice.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on to the show. Folks, follow, like, subscribe, comment, audio, and video. We are everywhere. Audible, Amazon, Cashbox, Deezer, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and others. There's out. Of course, it's YouTube, JLJ Media. All right. So, Flobo Boyce, take us back.
Yeah.
There was a time you were a lot. If you're watching, he's lost a lot of weight since this thing happened. But you were a larger person.
Yes.
And talk about that you were losing weight on your own, and tell us kind of what led up to you actually thinking about getting the tummy tuck.
Oh yeah. So I was heavy my entire life. Like by the time I was in first grade, I was at 80 pounds, which is about double the size of a child at that time. And I just got bigger and bigger. And my parents grew up working class, and that's how they showed their love is hey, we cooked this food and you will eat this food because we cooked it, And once you have that kind of discipline, the older you get, the plates got bigger and bigger and bigger. So I'm not necessarily an emotional eater, but I was just definitely someone that's had terrible portion control, and I still do. We go out to lunch all the time. I eat like whatever James eat, I'll eat that times 1.5, right? And I'm still like getting donuts afterwards. But by the time I was 21 years old, I was about 375 pounds, and when you talk about like the tummy tuck, it's skin elasticity. So imagine a woman who's pregnant. She's pregnant for 9 months. She has a child, but every child thereafter becomes a little bit less. The skin doesn't come back as much. I had been functionally pregnant for 16 years. And so when I decided to lose the weight, I was on the Subway diet. I laugh about that, but I was on the Subway diet back when a foot long was only $5. You can't do it now. It's like it's way more expensive. I had all this loose skin. I tried. I used to wrap myself up in like a compression band to work out. And it got to the point where I had loose skin all over my body. I still have loose skin in parts of my body today. I'm sure we'll talk about that. But for the big thing for me was that I took up running to keep my heart health up. And the excess skin was like pulling on every step I was doing. It was like, it was just pulling down. And so it started to hurt. And I decided to get it done. And that was about 10 years ago. It was December 27th, 2013. So about 10 years ago.
So let's stay in that space for a little bit. The fact that so you were a large, so you were a larger person, and I know what it's like to be a larger person. I've up and
Hmm.
down my life also. It's funny how I'm glad you mentioned that you're not emotionally. There's all kinds of eaters, folks out there, and everybody just tries to think, well, it must be just one way. Everybody gets fat one way. Like, no, no, no. I'm not an emotional eater either, and I was a guy who I like to have 3 meals a day.
Hmm.
And sometimes I didn't watch what I ate exactly. And so just the pounds would add on. Whereas some people, they can't eat when they're upset or whatever, or they overeat when they're upset. But there are folks just like big portions. There's a whole thing about portions. There really is. And when we go out to lunch, I'm always taking something home. I never
Yeah,
finish anything.
that's crazy. I can't imagine.
Yeah. So I'm always about that. That's something like that. But I just know that I started changing my portions. That's why I'm still heavy for other reasons, but like that's the portion thing I kind of have down. I don't eat a lot. I eat throughout the day if I can, little by little.
You
That's probably why
graze.
I'm not huger, probably, and I'm just crazy.
Yeah.
But I'm not a snacker. Are you a snacker?
Historically, yeah. Because when I was doing like intermittent fasting, what I would do is have my window be like something as small as 6 or 4 hours. And so I would at first when you're younger, when you're in like your mid early to mid 30s, you could do that. You can like I'll eat
Yeah.
anything between the hours of 11 and 3 and be fine.
Yes.
And then you hit 36 and you're like, nah, bro, like you need those
It
calories.
totally stops. It totally stops.
Yeah. So I like the snack sometimes, and sometimes I'll have like a craving for something crunchy, or I want something sweet, or I want something savory, and I kind of like cycles through a bit.
Actually, I've never asked you this question before. I mean, I know Flobo very well, but I've never asked you this question before. When you were larger, you said I'm gonna start losing weight. You got to be on the journey and stuff.
Hmm.
Did you imagine what your body would look like? So it's versus what you saw.
Yes, but I can tell you the moment, like, because you think about what I look like, you think about six pack abs, because I'm a big
Right,
wrestling
evidently.
fan. You're inundated with like what they call the male perfect form. But for me, the winter before I started to really do it in earnest, because the real reason was because of girls. I mean, that's how it happens,
Oh,
right?
of
We're
course.
we're we're narcissists in that way. I was waiting on an airport. I was at LaGuardia, in New York, flying back to John Wayne Airport in Santa Ana to go back to grad school, and there was a column that held up the airport, but it was like a steel surface. So the whole surface was like convex. So it was like a big, and so because of that, my body looked super skinny in my reflection, and I was like, oh, so that's what I would look like. Maybe I give it a shot. Because that conversation I had with my family the weekend before, my cousin had did the stomach stapling surgery and it
Oh,
was like,
yes, I know that
you should do this. And back then it wasn't the lap band, it wasn't the band, it was like they cut, they would do
one.
the invasive those. And I said, give me a year. I mean, if I can't do it in a year, I was in my mid 20s. I was like early to mid 20s. I said, if I can't do it in a year, I'll consider it. So I did that, had that conversation. I went to the airport, saw me skinny in that column, and I was like, I can do this. And of course, girls. That's how it. That's how it
Well,
goes.
it's fine. But no, I was wondering because you said you had loose skin, so I mean you're
Hmm.
younger. So I'm thinking because I've been big and I was never I never lost that much weight in a grouping. I think the most I've ever lost was like 70 pounds
Yeah,
a grouping. But my skin came back because I was younger when I did it.
sure.
Like now, as I'm gonna start losing weight. I'm on a whole journey, which I'll be talking about on the show
Hmm.
at some point. I'm kind of curious if I'll probably have the loose skin. Probably, I'm really curious. I'm older now, and I'm just really curious about that.
It's yeah, it's also the speed too. So like my first year, I had lost 80 pounds. My first year, and it looked pretty decent. Like it didn't look like it was that bad. But year two, I had lost 50 on top of that 80, and then things were starting to drag down. And then the third year, I had lost the 30 on top of that. So it was 80, yeah, 80, 50, 30. Yeah. So by the third year, it was almost like it compounded. So when I have my shirts off, you can see where I work out and where the muscles are, but you can tell under the arms, in the thighs, on my love handles, specifically in my pectoral area, I still have patches of loose skin, which I haven't worked on because you can't fix it because those skin isn't on any kind of muscular or ab wall, so you can't work it out.
Right? Yeah, you can do this. That's so interesting. But again, because you were in your late 20s then, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So yeah, so
So I
yeah,
was 29 when I had the surgery.
yeah, so yeah. Okay, so then now let's go to where you're like, okay, I lost all this weight. I have some loose skin. It's kind of
Yeah.
weighing me down as a runner. Um, what made you decide to look into getting something done about it?
Okay. Before I answer that question, is this for all ages or is this for adults or is this
Only for adults.
okay? Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna tell you the actual. This is I
I'll,
haven't totally.
I'll put in the that's what the
All
show's
right.
about. I'll put it in the description, like some more.
So I was losing the weight and I had the skin, but I was fine with it because I didn't like wear my jeans on my chest. I wore it at my waist, so people kind of saw that I had like the pouch there. But one day I was getting hot and heavy with a lady friend, and she had to physically move my fat out the way to have intimate time. And I said, "Oh no!" Like she didn't mind it, but I did, and I was like, "There's no way," because I'm still in my 20s, and you don't think you're a young person having someone like pick up a flap. to work. I said, okay, I gotta find a way. What can I do? That's why I started wearing the compression bands all the time. But then, of course, I was getting like chafing because you're basically locking the skin from air. And then that's why I was like researching if there's any kind of permanent solutions. Because look, I'm from Brooklyn, man. No one talks about amnioplasties. Like I don't know where to start from that. But we'll get into it probably. That's what I decided.
Yes.
I got to go find a search for it. So.
Okay, so now let's get that because I want people to understand this. Because all walks of life listening, especially looking at listening to this. Were you rich, poor? What kind of job you had? Like, what were you like when you started looking? Like, what were you thinking? You had great insurance. Like, what was that? What was that all about?
To be, I want to be completely like transparent. I would call myself working class. So to me, poor is like not being food stable, not having the lights on, sleeping in the car. So I had all that, right? Not every day I ate every day, but like there was months where I was not paycheck to paycheck. I was like sub paycheck to paycheck, meaning you get paid twice a month, but one check you can't even touch because that's the rent. Like, well, I guess I'm getting paid 2 weeks from today. I didn't get paid. So, and you call it the fun check. So it was rough. It was rough. And there was times where you had to do without just to make it work because I lived in Southern California, which is actually one of the more expensive areas in the country to live. So,
So okay, so he was poor basically. Okay, but he had a place to live, but he was poor. Okay,
damn it, James, I was poor.
yeah, I was
Didn't have
like,
insurance. I didn't have insurance either. So.
okay, well, I would say we're still considered poor. I don't matter what we're making now. Like the median line is moved up. We're poor. Okay,
Okay.
this is a very important. This is why I say this. So there are ways to get stuff done. I mean, I'm just saying, we're gonna talk about his way, how he did it back then. But I'm saying there's so if you guys at home is going, well, I don't have a lot of money. I don't like there's ways you can figure stuff out. So
Mhm.
for you, what were your steps to figuring out how to get this done?
So you should probably find a doctor that can tell you what they would charge up front. So a lot of times doctors don't want to deal with the finances because they're the craftspeople. But I went to a doctor in Beverly Hills, which is again something I didn't think I would ever have.
Yeah, fancy,
Uh,
fancy.
Actually, it was one block outside. It was on the West Hollywood side, but I would call it
Beverly Hills
anyway.
adjacent. Beverly Hills
Yeah, 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 exactly. Or was the other way around? It was like one block in Beverly. Anyway, not the point.
adjacent.
And so I asked for the quote, and the most important thing is asking how long was the quote good for. I think
Oh,
that's the
okay.
first step. So hey, look, we gave you a little like an estimate, like a car shop. It's an estimate. It was good for like 3 months to lock it in. So in my case, full disclosure, my fleur de lis amnioplasty, which is what I had, was 8,500. And so I asked my immediate family first. I think my dad wrote me a check for 1,000, and this is kind of a Flopito lore. After he gave me that check, he said never ask me for money again, so I didn't. So that's why I remember it. It was like bam. I had 1,500 on my own, so that was 2,500. My girlfriend at the time set up a You Caring, which became GoFundMe, and
Oh,
I made someone else not I didn't want to run it because I was also embarrassed to
oh yeah.
have because I feel like being fat is one of those things that everyone knows is a public health issue, but it always looks like it's your fault. The reason why you're fat is because you didn't have control. And so I kind of bought into that. And so with that, I think whatever it was, how much we raised, I was 5,000 short altogether of that 8,500. And then I got a medical credit card, which is called Care
I was
Credit.
gonna say good financing. Like financing.
Yeah, yeah. There was Care Credit. I mean, if you guys have ever had a Synchrony bank card, like a PayPal credit, for example, they're pretty ruthless. They kind of fudge around with the dates and payment
Oh, I'm
cycles to make
sure.
sure you're in the bad end.
And
But
the
they're the only
interest,
ones.
I'm sure the interest.
Oh yeah, or the interest, or let's say you want to be smart and pay extra money like throughout the month. It didn't matter. For most credit cards it would matter, but to them, that's the payment for that month. The next day it'll start to cycle over. So there was months I put like $400 down. That day turned over and I still owed the next payment. And I was like, what? You know what I mean? So yeah, so it was credit cards, some donations outright, and 12 friends donated enough. And so I made sure to thank them every time. I saw them, and every time I go on a binge day, I go, "Hey, look, people bought in. You got to make sure you keep it all nice and tight."
Yeah, I mean it's hard to do those GoFundMe's and things. I mean, I've never done one. I've done a couple of telethons,
Hmm.
but that was a little different. But I felt like yeah, GoFundMe's are kind of interesting. You're like people do be like, why are they doing it? And for something like this, maybe you
Yeah.
think it's cosmetic, which it partially is, but it's also it also health. It's a health thing too. It's both.
One of the hardest things too is that it's kind of almost too common now. Like to my advantage, and this is maybe something that most people don't have. That I don't usually ask for much, and so when someone else says, "Hey, look, he's been your friend for 20 years. When was the last time Flo was ever asked you for something?" You go, "Oh, damn, he never did it." And so I had a lot of small donations that way. But you're right, GoFundMe's are almost a verb. Oh, just do a GoFundMe, bro, and that can be a little harder to break through for people if they want to do
Right.
that.
Okay, so now you got the money. You're now booking it. You're not booking it. Like you're booking a job. No, you're booking it.
I booked
Uh,
it.
I got it. So you book it.
Mhm.
And so did they explain everything to you beforehand, like what is about to happen? Do
Yeah.
you have any concerns, questions? Like, well, how did that process go?
I had one concern, and we're probably talking about complications in a minute, but I had one concern because if you know, Kanye West's mother died doing a cosmetic surgery. She had a heart condition, and they did it anyway, even though she was advised not to, and she, passed out on the table. So I was worried about that. It's like I know I was young, but I'll be safe. And so we do any kind of surgery. They put you to go to blood work to make sure that you're okay because when you go under the knife, you're basically are like temporarily dead until they revive you. So they want to make sure that you're of sound body and mind. So you do a lot of interviews, they ask about your medical history, you get the blood work done, you pass that, you have the consultations, and then they give you the date. Hey, look, at this time, show up. Didn't know this at the time, but the Christmas week is like peak season for cosmetic surgeries because people have time off. And so I had to slot it in a certain place because everyone tries to do it as discreetly as possible so you can go back to work like nothing happened. Didn't know that. So had my mom flow in because she was a retired nurse at the time. In hindsight, she couldn't do much, but she was still my mama, right? And she would make sure that the line up at that time. So it's a process of making sure you're fit to have surgery.
Have you ever had surgery before or any kind before that?
Absolutely not. Nope.
So how nervous were you?
I was not nervous about the actual search. I really wanted the skin gone. I wanted it gone. The things I should have worried about would be like the things I learned after waking up, like when you play with skin, feeling sensations, because nerve endings have to be. Anyone with a C-section would tell you. I didn't even think about that. It was, if you put me under, will I come back? That's that's the only thing I worried about was the actual anesthesia of it all.
Do you remember the countdown?
No, I didn't get a countdown. So they put the gas mask on me, and the guy was like, "Hey man, are you like sports?" I'm like, "Well, I'm a baseball guy." He goes, "Well, I like basketball. Do you like Kobe Bryant?" And that was the last thing I remembered. So I didn't get the countdown.
I always tell the story. This is brief today for me. My under the I've had many surgeries and things because I'm a mess. But when I was getting my wheelchair pulled and I went under, they said count backwards. And I was like 99, and I went out. When I woke up, they're like, your wife and daughter are waiting for you outside. I go, I don't have a wife and daughter. And I remember saying, I was still under the drug. I go, how long have I been out? Like that. It was actually my
Yeah.
stepmom, my sister. She was younger. My father married younger. So they were there for it. It's kind of funny. I was like, wife and daughter? Oh, I thought I was gay.
When I got up, I was like, "Did I win?" He's like, "Sir, there wasn't. You didn't win anything." Like, did I kick out?
Win life. You won life.
I won
Because,
life.
so how long was, you remember how long was the surgery? Now you remember. How long was the surgery?
I didn't know what time I went in, but my appointment was 6:30, and I was back in the chair in my apartment at 1:30. So
Oh,
it
so it was an
wasn't.
outpatient. It was a total outpatient. We're going to
It
go
was
in.
like a medical center, yeah. So it was like a medical center. You go home that afternoon. Mhm.
Well, let's talk about that. I already know. I know the story just because you told me about it. But now I'm going to tell the viewers. Like,
Yeah. So
no graphic stuff going on. I put a disclaimer in the thing so everybody know that. But yeah, what
sure.
happened?
From the day after surgery, or my complications.
Well, they said you. I mean, you went home and you were fine.
So well, no, not necessarily. So
Okay. Please, no.
the first complication I had. So when you're under the knife, everything slows down, and so you got to give it time to ramp it up. And I didn't know that. So I live in a second floor walk up, and I was still recovering from the anesthesia, and so I climbed up. It was actually too much work,
Oh,
aerobically. So I had terrible nausea the first couple hours. I peed blood for the first 3 days because the doctor had misjudged the size of the gauge of the catheter and had lanced the inside of my bladder. Every time I peed blood, which if you ever done it, it's the hardest feeling in the world. My first time I peed, it was a blood clot, and if you ever passed a blood clot through your urethra, it's not pleasant. And so it got to a point where those 2 or 3 days, I got as soon as I had to go, I had to film the pee, I did it because if I held on to it, it was like compounding the pain. Um, yeah, it was tight. The third day, I think, is always the worst. That's healing day. That's when things start to actually heal. That's the only time I remember asking for the painkillers. They gave me Vicodin, which I didn't take. They gave me Tramadol, which I didn't want to take because they were all opiates. But I took Tylenol type 3, which is kind of a low grade opiate. But I took that.
I
To
didn't want
kind
to
of
take the Vicodin. I'm like, whatever, Flobo. I'm like,
I didn't because again I've heard the stories, man. Like would you get hooked on pills? I mean, Kim
I did it.
Mathers
I'm
and I
not
mean,
on pills. They did
I
all
didn't.
that.
I didn't know. I thought I was fine because they say you can go back to work in a week. I thought it was fine. I went out walking for the first time three at the fourth, fifth day after surgery. I felt a little pressure on my side of my body. I didn't pay any mind. I just thought, hey, I'm just getting back into things. That night, my mom had realized we were running out of gauze just for the sutures, so she went out to the store to get some. And then while she was gone, the right side of my body, where the suture line had ended on my hip, had reopened. And it was a gash that was 4 inches long and about 2 inches wide, and I'm like pouring blood down my leg. Now, I don't know if you guys ever like felt your own blood. It is a lot warmer and stickier than you think the movies are. Like it is, it's bad, and I didn't know what to do. Like I didn't know what to do at all. I remember the TV was playing Up in the Air, so George Clooney will always be in my head. I went to the shower, tried to wash it off, but more kept coming, and I just didn't know what to do. I was panicking. And my mom, so what I did is I laid down on the floor because that's the only way I can get the leverage. I just had ab surgery, right? So you couldn't really like twist around to hold it in. So I'm on the floor on my side. And I'm trying to like use my arm to keep a piece of paper there to keep it bleeding. Mom shows up. She's freaking out. She's not very mobile, right? She's like bending over trying to see what happens. And my mom was an RN for 40 years, and you were a nurse too. I'm not sure. Were you an RN or an LPN or a
Oh,
DV?
yeah. No, yeah.
Okay, oh yeah. But medical people know. There's a certain tone they use when you're screwed. Like they can be trained good bedside manner. But my mom, I was like, well, Mom, what's going on? What's it look like? And she was like, it opened up. That was it. And so I'm calling the doctor, my doctor, the plastic surgeon, and I was like, "Hey, look, man, you gotta help me out." And he says, "Sorry, can't help you." Until we pause that story. So I didn't have traditional sutures. I had the ones that were the glue, like that was inside my body that was glued. And so when those open up, he can't reglue them. As far as he's concerned, that whole site is considered contaminated. So he won't touch it again. It's just too risky. And the only options were to have me go to a hospital, but my mom is, in the 60s and 70s. She can't really move that much. And I know I can't move my body. And who we're going to call to go a second floor flight or just do cold compresses. And so at that time, we made a judgment call to keep just the cold compress just because the gash was so large that anything else probably would have killed me. And I hate telling that part of the story because everyone jumps in and then goes, "You should have did this. You should have done that. You should have done the next thing." But I said you wouldn't think of that way either. So I get on the couch. I'm so now I can't be on my side because I got the cut here. I can't be on my back because I had ab surgery, right? So I'm literally on one cheek holding it while now SNL's on TV. And I remember thinking I was going to die. And you get scared, you get terrified, and then that wave of Zen goes over, like, well, man, I had a good run. You know what I mean? Like if I died today, cool. I thought about everything I did in my life. I had two major regrets, and that was riding a motorcycle or learning comedy. Those are the two things I wish I had done. But everything else, like kissing more girls or getting more jobs, I was like, I'm gonna let that go. And I fell asleep. And I woke up with the biggest, grossest looking jello on the side of my body. It had sealed itself, and I survived the day. So,
Yeah, that's gross. I'm glad you survived. No, I know it's like the
yeah,
most
that's gross.
it's the most professional show on earth.
Mhm.
No, I'm not actually. I'm glad. I know the story, so I'm
It's
glad you.
gross. Back to you. Yeah, yeah.
I expect you, James. No, as a person who's been near death, I understand a few times. I understand that. No, that's just such a. It's an interesting thing because complications can happen, folks. And it's something that they can totally it can happen. It doesn't always happen, but it can. But for you though. So you could not go back and like see the doctor, plastic surgeon. You couldn't do none of that stuff, could you? I mean, it was kind of like,
I mean, a lot of times they hold harmless agreements, but for me, it really was an issue about suing. It was. I thought I was gonna die. I didn't. Like I'm fine. Like to me, that was not in my head of let's get some money out of this. It was, you stupid guy, you put this on yourself from eating too much,
uh,
and then you did the thing that you know killed Kanye West's mom, and you almost died yourself. You survived. Just start over. And they always say you only live twice, right? Once when you're born and once when you serve death in the face. So I kind of took it more like that. Like, hey, look, new lease on life.
yeah, got that. When did everything start to heal? When were you able to take your body back out and be like, here it is?
Yeah, so I got surgery on the Friday and I went to back to work in an office, not the next Monday, but the following Monday. So that's like 10 days. That's when I was able to do that job. And then I would say full psychological recovery was about 3 months. So because I was like moving a little slower, I had to like do my laundry or 5 or 6 items of clothing at a time. I couldn't, because I usually take the bag over my shoulder and go downstairs to the laundromat. I couldn't do that for about 4 or 5 months because you can't really lift anything and driving was difficult. So I would say I can go back to an office in about 10 days, but it took about 2, 3 months to get myself in there. In fact, so surgery was in December. A couple of friends and I were trying to go to Vegas in February, and like my big pair of fat jeans was irritating me. I was still wearing sweats for the 2 months because that's how because it's all swollen, right? Basically, I'm having a tummy tuck that goes from so that's why it's called a flirty elite, by the way. A tummy tuck goes from hip to hip, but mine went from hip to hip and chest to pelvic line. They basically cut me open, remove 7 pounds, and flip it together. So my entire ab region couldn't lift, couldn't bend, couldn't twist for months. And then comes like the feeling of the nerve endings like reforming. So I always tell people I did my job in about 10 days, but it takes a lot longer than that.
Yeah, folks, I'm telling you. Woo, yes. Um, when did you when you look back on it, when did you realize, wow, I went through some that was crazy? And do you regret it or are you fine with it?
So when I recovered, one of the things I wanted to do was do comedy. And so I eventually took a comedy class the next summer and then I did comedy on stage. And my teacher, Adam Barnhart, love him to death, once we did like our first jokey jokes, it was like, think about something that's more to you and deeper. So backstory, Adam Barnhart was a gay comedian, but he's open for Andrew Dice Clay back in the day where you couldn't do that. And he got a thick skin very easily. And he said his life story was important to him to get on stage and goes, yeah, I'm a gay man. Yeah. So what's your like, yeah. And so that's when I really sat and thought about what I had to do. Moving out to this city where it's so image conscious and eating right and taking the surgery on myself and recovering and taking all of my mistakes I caused by eating overeating with me. So I would say if it wasn't for comedy, I wouldn't even have that moment of being like, yeah, man, you did it. You got most of it done. And about a year after that, it was almost like, oh yeah, I had surgery. Let me tell that story. And it kind of became a part of my character. Wait, you almost died and you decided to do comedy? Tell me about that. And so it's kind of a beautiful thing in that way where one scary night kind of opened me up to the next stage of my life.
Yeah, I know. We're sitting here, we're kind of chuckling hearing about stuff, but as a person who knows who's been you stared death in the face 3 times myself, after a while, it does become. Once you get further away from it, and you actually put it somewhere in your life,
Hmm.
like you say, you place it somewhere. You can start to joke about it a little bit, laugh about
Hmm.
it a little bit, kind of marvel at it. I can almost happen to someone else. You know
Oh
what I mean?
yeah. Yeah.
And that's kind of and our kind of community and cultures, you joke about everything. You joke about everything. You kind of blow things off. And other people are like, oh
Exactly.
my God, and I like people be mortified. And I'm like, yeah, I went through that. We went through that when life went on. And I'm
Right.
still here. And that's very much, especially Caribbean culture, Black culture. Like we're hardy folk.
Yeah, already it is. Oh, to answer your question. So I do it again. That surgery, yes. So to this day, there's still pockets of my body that I would love to tighten up. Even though I'm getting older, I'm at the point where I'm
Tighten
like,
up, kids. Like, so tighten up.
yeah, I get it. But that surgery was super important because buying clothes off the rack is important. I'm entertainment, and it really is important. Like once I got over the fact that I was this kid from Brooklyn that had a plastic surgeon out of Beverly Hills, it did more benefits than detriments. And every year or so, because I still have the photos, I look at the specimen of what they removed from my body. It was 7 pounds of it. Like it was on me the entire time. So doing that again, probably, yeah. Would I get the rest of my body touched up? If the whole thing aligned, the downtime aligned, I haven't really thought about it.
Yeah, no, I mean you look good. I mean, I think it's one of those things. It's very interesting because I'm glad you don't have any regrets for that because I mean things happen, but it got you on the because I've seen the before pictures of you, which it doesn't really look like you to me, like very different.
Hey,
I know for you, this was very important, and I think people out there always say, well, before you do any procedure, what do you want? What is it that will this make you feel better about things? It's very important. So I'm glad you said, yeah, it got you on a path that you're still working on today. That's something positive.
well, a friend I went to school with, or I went to school with his wife, and he hit me up and he's like, I want some questions about this angioplasty. And he was very similar. He lost the weight, was going to do it, wasn't sure to do it. And I said, I get it. I understand. But you work this hard and you put your body in different positions. Finish the job.
Yeah, I think
Excuse me, finish the job and make sure you can match the way how you see yourself on the inside.
I think so. I'm very curious to see what my skin's gonna look like once I'm on this little journey. And like I said, I'll be telling you later on the show. Later on, I'll be telling you more about what I will be going through for the next, at least maybe probably year. And so,
What?
yes, I got approved for some stuff, and I'm going to be taking it and
You got
adding
approved for some stuff.
yes for some stuff. I'm not
Congratulations.
on the show this episode.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So, but on another future episodes, I'll be talking about it on here, and so I'm really curious to see what. When I ask you that question, I don't know what my body's gonna look like because I've never had to lose weight at this age. So and folks at home, I'm close to 60. So I've never had. I've always lost weight in my teens, 20s, 30s, 40s. I've never had tried to lose weight in 50s. Almost.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of ways it's easier, a lot of ways it's harder, depending how you look at it. So whatever combination works for you, then by all means.
That'll be interesting. But I believe in cosmetic surgery. I know some folks, the skin does it does. I mean, it's almost just for vanity reasons. Other times, like you said, for you, it was actually hindering some of the activity you want to do, and that's real. Either way, it's real. Either way, it's real. I think it's great. Thanks for sharing your story, Flobo.
Oh, my pleasure.
Show. As we close out, what would you say to people who are thinking about getting the tummy tuck or the abdominoplasty for themselves? It's like, is there a couple of things you would say to them? Just
Yeah, that's actually a very good question. I was at a gala and one of my former schoolmates hit me up. He's like, "Oh man, Flobo, I haven't seen you in 15 years and you look great." And I'm thinking about doing that myself. And I told her, one, make sure you're patient with yourself and your body because if you're the kind of person who's motivated to lose the weight, you being laid up is going to be torturous.
oh,
And and two, when your skin is melted together, again, your nerve endings have to be retrained. They have to. There's parts of my body to this day that are still numb that don't really hit the same, or so I'll get a histamine flash from exercising a lot. And I said it's going to be difficult for you, but then you also have to, and we're all adults here, talk to your significant other and retrain them on what parts of your body it's okay to touch, and that could be very awkward. Just whatever that is, because you are still learning what your new body looks like. She goes, I had a kid, I understand. I goes, all right, but that's what I'm sharing. But yeah.
and folks, my last episode was on my Bell's palsy because I'm celebrating 7 years since I was had it in a few weeks. Um,
How are you celebrating?
7 years, 2018. It was kind
How
of
you
crazy.
how are you celebrating? Like, dude, it's like a
I look at my face. No, I just stare at myself all day.
there's no wrong answer. I wasn't gonna be like, oh, terrible. I was like,
I
okay,
just, I
cool.
just I'm trying to be comical about it because it's actually it's very painful for me because I added in the last episode I added part of the video when my face was paralyzed. I still can't
Mhm.
look at it. It just takes me back there for some reason. And what I was going to say before I went to answer your question, relate to you. To this day, still there are parts of my face that don't work. I can feel it. You guys can't see it, but I can tell. Parts of my face are still numb. So
Mhm.
I can't. fully. I look pretty normal now, but there's parts where I can feel it. There's parts that are still on that side. Because I mean, the nerve endings died. I mean, it was like they were inflamed, and as you watch that episode, I talk about that. I know. I just recognize that that's okay, and I do something for Bell's palsy. I usually talk about it that day, post stuff about it. I do all throughout the year, but I usually just kind of like I have a Bell's palsy shirt I wear. As I'm a surprise survivor. I said I like I said something like I lost half my face, but I gained weight. I always little shirts that people were giving me. They cheer me up. So I have a few of those shirts. And I talk about those. But yeah, I just that's kind of my every year I go, okay. Half my face went paralyzed, and it was like a serious thing for almost a year. It was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I did acupuncture, which I talked about on the last show, which gave me I think really did help some of the stuff. But there's still parts that I'm like, so I don't know if I should get more acupuncture. I thought about the other day. I was like, maybe I should get more acupuncture. And those spots that I feel like it's still kind of crazy. So I don't know.
Well, I'm glad you're here, brother.
I'm glad you're here too. So that's very important. I do mean that. So, folks, Flobo, tell them where they can find us. I talked about all your lovely accomplishments.
Yeah,
Tell
I
them where they
mean,
can actually find you.
so many awards, man. You're right. The new Amsterdam Radio podcast and Draped and Cold podcast, wherever you get your podcasts in general. The In the Booth of Flobo Boyce. Yes, it's on the Black Baseball Mixtape Network, but we talk to the fans. We talk to more of the people who make the baseball run, not the players themselves. So don't be intimidated. Come on down to In the Booth with Flobo Boyce. But every week I have a blog. It's sports, it's comedy, it's culture together. The Substack, as James said, is called justasandwich.com. New post every week. There's one that went out live today as I record this. So it's a lot of fun. Just put my name in the Google machine and it comes on up.
It does. Check them out. Tell them James sent you. Or JLJ, one of the two. Tell them whatever.
Who's that?
All roads lead to that person.
Boo!
And then, yeah, and you can follow me. We're all James Lott Jr. sold at James Lott Jr. on all social media platforms. I am sold out. I mean, I'm sold out, but
I wish I could sell out.
it's really easy. You can. I do every day. No, so you follow me everywhere James Lott Jr.'s are, and I'm everywhere. I'm literally everywhere. TikTok everywhere. Special shout out to my folks in Clinton, Indiana, which helped begin this podcast and helped put it together. I love you there. I'll be seeing you guys there in a month. I'll be there. Everybody, have a great week. I'll see you next Wednesday for another edition of Tighten Up with JLJ. Bye.